everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Robin Smith, as I was introduced. I'm from Life Technologies. And this is a session on It's Your Time to Shine. So a little bit about how this came about for that title. All of you, if you're working within SEO, probably experience kind of how you work within the organization, the different functions within the organization that touch SEO. Especially things like IT, web operations, corporate communications, all of those areas that influence how SEO works and if it's successful. And as an SEOer, it's really actually pretty hard to evangelize throughout the organization and get everybody, to kind of gain that seat at the table to make sure that everybody is using best practices and thinking about SEO when they're doing their day-to-day job. So in this instance, always having those resources out there that you can depend on, those ones that can help you, that could kind of make you shine, is really important. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about, is my experience that I've had with Your Amigo and running a campaign that I've had that is fairly much hands-off from an internal resource standpoint. Even my team of SEO, paid search, social media, and other digital marketing channels, fairly hands-off for us, but it was a very successful campaign for us. What is Life Technology? So just to kind of give you an idea of who we are, just a little bit of background about Life Technologies. If you watch CSI and you see the lab, everything that's in CSI, we sell to our customers. So we sell instruments and ingredients and products to service labs, clinics, research labs, in this case a forensic lab, and more. And what Life Technologies is proud of, what makes me go to work every day and makes me happy to work for the company, is how we're improving discovery, or shaping discovery and improving life. Things we do are amazing, and it makes me really happy to work for a company like Life Technologies. And that's things like the Clinton Initiative, Climate Initiative, where we're working in climates that are having trouble growing crops because of the climate conditions, and we're working with them on how do we create genetically modified crops in order to feed those different regions. Other things that we're doing is pinpointing genetic diseases, and that's both in humans and as well as in animals that are going to go extinct. So finding that genetic disease or that genetic mutation that's causing that animal to almost go extinct, and then breeding that out of that animal. As well as forensic DNA and HID, human identification is big for our company. It's definitely grown quickly, and those are things like using DNA in the court systems. Instead of fingerprinting, we're moving towards actually DNA everybody. First time you get booked into a police department, you will be DNA'd versus fingerprinted. Also, human trafficking in some countries is really big, so our kits, the things that we provide, actually help match back kids to their parents so that we can return them to their parents. In instances where there's natural diseases like tsunamis and hurricanes, where children or family members or children are separated from their parents, we actually are helping researchers work to identify those kids and match them and return them to their parents. So challenges that we needed to overcome, and the reason why I was looking out to find a solution and a partner were a couple of things. Oh, actually, more than a couple. So business rules have changed for my team. And what I mean by that is that we were placed within the commercial organization, directly reporting to the VP of Sales. How they look at us is completely different than how we were looked at when we were just in, say, e-commerce or e-business or within the marketing organization, because when they were looking at us, growth year over year was acceptable. I could drive more traffic in my channels year over year, and I could actually drive more revenue growth year over year, measured against what I drove last year, and that was acceptable. It's no longer acceptable for my team. How we measure success is actually really different today. And we're actually measured based on what finance's definition of incremental revenue or incremental growth means, which means in some instances they don't give us credit for everything. And so that has definitely changed our rules. Search landscape is always changing. So as you know, it's constantly changing. New things are coming up. There's always moving. Where they used to think social was going to, was going to make a dent in search, it actually hasn't. Actually, it's made search a lot more stronger. I don't see search ever taking a back seat to any of these channels. It's always going to be growing, always going to be driving a large part of the volume. And I think that probably depends also on who you are, right? And so for our company, search is really important. Less than optimal catalog architecture. So I'd love for my e-commerce system to be, have a lot of accessibility, be able to be picked up, all content by the search engines, have high performance, not have internal linking structure issues, not have not have dynamic content that's static, but these are things that aren't a reality for me, so this was a big challenge. Visibility in the international engines and page performance across geos. So we weren't doing really well. We dominated North America and did very well in the European countries, but as soon as you got over to some of the international engines like Baidu, Naver, Yandex, it was a whole different story. And our website actually wasn't doing as well as what I had hoped. And I didn't have the option to do CCTLDs or have content that was separate that I could translate and optimize specifically for that region. So that was a challenge. Also page performance, if you're not using anything to increase performance like Akamai or something like that, page performance is huge for the search engines. They've basically come out and said that if your competitor is faster than you on page performance, they're going to outrank you. And so page performance is really important. Our competitive landscape changed. We as a company for a long time actually benefited from being first in search and did really well and didn't have a lot of competitive pressure. In the last 2 years, and also as being a large brand, we owned a lot of market share. Last 2 years, that's changed. So we've seen a lot of competitive pressure come in, a lot of people coming into steal different listings. We aren't kind of owning the SERP pages as much as we used to. And so that was an area where we had to work harder. And shrinking budgets. So all of these digital channels popping up, that's great, but we have one budget. My budget doesn't get bigger because social media all of a sudden becomes important. My budget stays the same, and now I have to figure out how I am more cost efficient and that each dollar is driving impact. And so how you prove if you were in the earlier session, they were talking about attribution. And we do attribution. It's really important to show how channels are working together with each other, how one is influencing the other and assisting the other in conversion. And what you'll find out is when you start doing attribution, that SEO is going to be your star child. SEO does not get the credit it deserves. It drives volume, but it doesn't get all the conversion credit that it deserves. So this campaign that we ran with Amigo, here's kind of the highlights, and this is the good stuff. We had an additional 6,000 North America listings above and beyond what we initially had. 89% of the visits are incremental, meaning we only have around 11% crossover with what my team is optimizing for, what my team is targeting. And over a 12-month period, we've driven over 1 million visits. And our definition of return on ad spend, or ROI, is 32-to-1 based on incremental only. So if I was to be able to measure this campaign based on what I measure everything else, my paid search and my organic and my email, this campaign would be up in the 80s-to-1. But because finance is only giving me credit to what they consider truly incremental revenue, which is growth of new customers and also growth of existing customers, revenue above and beyond what they would have purchased historically, then then that's kind of where my overall, what the success. And to me, this is success. I can't show other channels and how they've really driven incremental revenue. And Amigos campaign was your Amigos campaign was the first one that we've actually really scrutinized, looked at how search was actually driving customer behavior and purchasing. Overall, your Amigo drove web customers to purchase more since it went live, and both existing customers and new customers. 30% increase in our basket of existing customers. So that's significant for me. You can see this is the 2.5 years. The middle line is when we launched the campaign. Even though we were driving, the trajectory was trending up. We were coming and hitting a lot of market share issues. So in my business, a lot of our consumables, a lot of our online orders, our customers are not loyal to the brand, so they will shift back and forth from brand to brand, and where we were seeing in a lot of instances some of our products flat to down, we were actually still growing in this campaign. So it was a success. We were seeing that existing customers were buying different products based on the listings that they were linking through from our Your Amigo campaign and coming to our site. And new customers. In my business, it's hard to get new customers. So all of our accounts pretty much are, I would say most of our competitors have all of our accounts also. It's contacts within those accounts that are important, which is contents can move from account to account, but they also can be new contacts or people who are coming up. Really where we can acquire new customers are those small lab startups and clinics and things that are coming out online. And we were able to get almost 3,500 new customer registrants and over 1,700 new customers that were generating incremental revenue. These are customers that we saw over time. The value of that customer increase, which was on average $4,000 per customer, and to about a $7 million value annually to these new customers that were acquired by Amigo. And again, this is true incremental and not marketing incremental. So how was this achieved? It was a quick implementation. It could be quicker, but I would say it was around 2 to 4 weeks for us. We provided a feed to your Amigo. They can do it both with a feed or also by scraping your site. We do actually a little bit of both. And they set up a proxy, preferably on Akamai, and so it's within your domain. All of the listings that you get credit towards your domain. You're building authority within your domain. It's actually sharing authority back and forth. And you add links to your footer so that you can pass PageRank and build that linking structure to the Your Amigo pages so that they will rank quickly. And then once they launch the campaign, it's a constant optimization. This is one area where I significantly have a challenge is being able to optimize for click conversion within my product catalog. So I don't have a dynamically changing list or category page within my catalog that I can optimize that only shows what's converting and what's not converting. I don't have also the luxury of optimizing descriptions, based on click conversion or how people are purchasing. I do, but it's a very manual process, which happens a few times a year. We optimize our descriptions. So this campaign actually is great. The engine, and I don't even, it's really hard for me to understand how that back of it works. It's definitely magic. But it is optimizing. It's looking at what people are searching. It's using those queries to build content that's relevant, and then optimizing based on how people are clicking and what their products they're purchasing. So increasing, again, 6,000 listings, and we created about 12,000 search engine enhanced pages. those pages that are constantly optimizing for your conversion. And all of them are fairly deep in the funnel, list and detail pages. These are queries that people are searching on, that are looking, unbranded terms that people are looking to find specific products at the time that they're making a decision. Very important to us to concentrate on that, because when you are vying for market share and people are going back and forth, it's important we're there at the time that they're looking. And 89% of the visits were unique to Amigo pages. So these were not keywords that we were targeting on my team, and they were truly new keywords that were driving new traffic to our site. In my team, we have both paid and organic search. In our organic search team, we optimize for approximately 6,000 keywords. That's kind of the set. We have a large product portfolio, and so we're constantly optimizing on these 6,000 that are important to you. They're not unique because they cross over geos. And so some, singers we're optimizing multiple times across the different international engines. But Your Amigo is targeting hundreds of thousands of keywords for us. Ones that I would never build a page for. Ones that I would never rank for another page that I have. I only can actually rank for so many keywords per page, and what they're doing they're actually looking at the long tail, and they're building content on the fly, dynamically to optimize for those terms. And a lot of times I hear, well, the long tail doesn't drive anything, and that's because people have a hard time doing the long tail. They only say that because they don't know what the long tail can do for them. Here's an example of, are you leaving your opportunity on the table? So some information that's come out around Google, or just searches in general. 20% of the searches each day are new or haven't been completed in the last 6 months. That means 1 out of 5 searches are brand new in Google. Imagine that. I mean, you think people are querying the same way, but we all have very random ways that we search in the search engines, using very different phrases and even, local language. And 70% of the queries have no exact match keywords. So you might be really targeting 6,000 keywords, but you're most likely not targeting every keyword, the long tail, that people are actually using to search. You're benefiting from the majority of what Google tells you is a high search volume, because that's kind of what we all do. We look at Google, we say, is it a high search volume term? We look at the result, we see if it's a relevant result, we build a page and we target it. But that's all we're doing. We're not really looking at crunching the data, looking at those. I get raw queries. I don't have time to crunch and look at the raw queries. That's a lot of data and really understand. And again, I wouldn't build a page because that's not what we do. 54% of the users' queries are greater than 3 words. When I look at the raw data that comes in from Amigo, sometimes they're 20 words. People really search very strange. So you never know what they're going to put together. When I show the keywords to my product managers, they say, I never in a million years would have thought that somebody would search that way. It doesn't make sense. But it doesn't make sense to us, and that doesn't really matter. It's what makes sense to the customer and how the customers are searching. And so 65% of the non-branded, Google says 65% of the non-brand drives more new visitors to your site. Talk about attribution. So here's one of the great things about paid search. For 2 years, I used to say, people search general, and then they go to more of a brand search, eventually come to your site and purchase, right? Because all my brand terms are converting for me in paid search. My general terms don't convert very well. It's not true. Well, it's not true for us. I mean, we looked at the attribution. We have keyword attribution now. It's not happening. People don't search a general term and then come back on my brand term and purchase. That was how I got budget 2 years ago. That's now how I can get budget today. It does happen, but it happens non-frequently. People search very general terms and in different ways, and you want to be there to catch that. So traffic and sales analysis, a little bit more about performance. 97% of the phrases were unique to Your Amigo. and 3% overlapping. So it's very small as far as what keywords they were targeting that were overlapping with keywords that we are targeting. And the great thing about it is that they have a great program that allows you to remove those keyword targets if you don't want them there. So if we have multiple listings, we have that choice to say, yes, we want to keep those multiple listings. I want to own that page. I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to have a Your Amigos SEO listing. I'm going to have my web page listing, and we're going to own that. Or I can say, I don't want you targeting these terms anymore, and remove that from their system. 89% of the visits were incremental, so only 11% of the visits we would have gotten if we weren't running this campaign. So for me, that, you know, when I explain to my organization that there's a formula, well, that formula is index, ranking, traffic, conversion. It's pretty simple. I know my conversion rate for paid search or for organic, and I know my average order value. But driving people and fast tracking them deep into the funnel, my conversion is much higher, and my AOV is much higher. And 38% incremental revenue. So what my finance team says is acceptable incremental revenue, which I have to respect. And then that's also teaching me that that customer can visit multiple touch points. That customer we're impacting through multiple ways, and they're purchasing different channels. They're not loyal to one channel. So how do we achieve this? We achieve this by targeting visitors that are looking at the time of decision. So very important, they're searching very unbranded specific terms that are leading them very close to making a decision and converting. And we're using it to maintain and gain market share. So this unbranded traffic is going to show up where my competitors are also showing up, and we're using it to be there, and it's important that we're there. So this was the quote from my IT lead after I put the Amigo campaign in, because there was a lot of skepticism with my company that this would work, and I got a little pat on the back, and it does work. So that's good. That was my moment. That was my moment to shine, because you sit at the table, you work very hard, you evangelize, you try to get people to understand how important it is. And with all the projects that the internal IT team is doing, they really do want to see success. And they know now that you can do something like this and you can drive success, which is more revenue, more incremental revenue, more customers. So that leaves us about 7 minutes left. Are there any questions? So very quiet. I know it's the end of the day. Everybody's tired. Your brains have a lot of information in them now. Questions on how it works? Are there any? Yeah. Well, the 6,000 are the ones that we look at, and we use, same industry standard tools that everybody does. It's the hundreds of thousands that we can't look at, right? And those are, Amigo, the way that they started out was actually starting out as a search engine. So they're able to take all of those queries that people are looking at, and they're able to use those to inform what kind of pages that they're creating. So they gather all those raw queries, what people are searching for, and then they use that to help drive their algorithm and build that content. It's all automated, and we wouldn't be able to do it manually. It's just impossible. It would take a huge team to achieve that. And so having Amigo as your resource, having them kind of your partner in this, it's a great resource to have, because they're going to complement your internal or also your agency teams very well. Your agency teams and your internal SEO people are going to work hard to really optimize those terms they feel are important, and Amigo's going to pick up all that stuff, all that missed opportunity. You know, back, I don't know, 2 years ago, everybody does missed opportunity analysis, right? And how far did that most of the time go? So you'd do this big presentation, and you'd say, this is the missed opportunity that we have within search. You'd give them, and you tell them how much revenue we would drive from it. Most of the time, they'd say, great, go do it, but they wouldn't give you any budget to do so. So this is kind of the way that you're gonna pick up all that missed opportunity. Any other questions? I see you want to ask a question. No? Yeah. I could tell that you had a lot of questions. Okay. Oh, don't assume that everybody understands. Correct. So the long tail, long tail can be used multiple different ways. And so how I'm explaining long tail are those terms that people are using only once or twice, the ones that are bringing 1 or 2 visits to our website, our content. Yeah, and where the strength comes within that is the volume that you're getting. So people don't go after the long tail because of just the sheer volume of terms that there are. It's very hard to target the long tail because you're talking about hundreds of thousands of terms. And so you need something, an engine that's running, that's doing that for you. You have to automate it. You can't do it manually. But it doesn't mean that you don't have to go for the head and the midterms, because there's a certain group of terms that your leadership or your people who you're running or the company say, this is how we position our company as a life science company. I need to be seen and position ourselves in these corporate terms that are important to us. The midterms are people who are kind of in the find phase. So they're still searching, they're still looking, they're still trying to make a decision. What I consider long tail are people who are actually close to purchase. So I've done, it's like searching tire and then getting more deep into your searching. Some people actually know right away what tire they want. And they'll go straight in and they'll put in 20 keywords that describes the tire. And that is what I'm talking about when I say long tail. This is organic, but it's a pay for performance program. So it's very similar to your paid search, but it's within an organic natural listing. Correct. In the long tail. Yeah. I mean, even in paid, you can't, even in natural and like in SEM, you can't a lot of times bid for these long tail terms because they don't trigger enough impressions for Google to serve an ad. So again, it truly is just kind of leaving a lot of those queries and searches that people are doing just kind of out there and not really benefiting from it. You're welcome. All right. Are there any more questions? I think we're wrapping up. I won't stand between you and the end of your day. Thank you.